Well, here we are. It is Terminello's take for the week of May 22nd. Boy, oh boy, Lou, we have a lot to get to. But isn't it fitting that Jokic wins the MVP and the Nuggets win and sweep the Lakers on the day Carmelo retires? Remember, Carmelo Anthony was a Nugget. I don't know if people remember that or not. I do back in the day, but it's kind of fitting that the day he retires, the Nuggets move on to the finals, isn't it?
Alex, thank you for having me back as always. Good to see you and good to hear from you again. Obviously, we have a lot to discuss, as you said. It is ironic on the day that Carmelo Anthony, who was drafted by the Nuggets after he won the NCAA championship in his only year at Syracuse, that he retired officially on the day that the Denver Nuggets have advanced to their first NBA final, their first Western Conference championship. And it's funny how those things are connected sometimes.
And of course, I got to meet him over in 2013 at Queens College. So that was pretty neat as well. But speaking of Jokic, we kind of knew they were going to get here with Jokic, didn't we? I feel like we did at some point.
Well, Nikola Jokic is a unique player. I think now, as the Nuggets have advanced to the final, we can put him on a par with Antetokounmpo, with Durant, and Jokic is right there with them. He is a very unique player. His skill set is off the charts. He sees the court. He's a great passer. He scores 30, 35 points a game with not a high volume of shots. I mean, he'll score 33 points and be 12 for 16 from the field, have 14 rebounds and 13 assists. He's as good without the ball as he is with the ball. He makes everybody better. There's not many centers offensively in the history of the NBA like that. The closest to Jokic was Bill Walton, who, if he didn't hurt his foot so badly, probably would have been as good a player that ever played in the NBA. That's how good he was at the center position. And in the late 70s and early 80s, the center position was still the key position, in the NBA at that time. Now it's a lot of its position is basketball, and Jokic is basically positionless, even though he's a tremendous big man.
No, he is. I watched a bit of the game the other day, and it looks like to me the Jokic Jamal Murray connection was flawless this past series, and Jamal Murray, of course, lighting it up, making headlines all over the place, which for a team led by Jokic, that just shows how much of a team player he is, because he does give the ball to guys like Jamal Murray, and Murray shined.
Absolutely. Jamal Murray's underrated. A lot of people obviously in the league know how good he is, but you hit the nail on the head. Jokic and Jamal Murray have great chemistry. The Nuggets as a team, have great chemistry. The Nuggets are well coached. The Nuggets are a team that are unlike other teams that we've seen in the NBA, say the Nets when they had Durant and Kyrie and Harden, or the Sixers. The head coach, Mike Malone, runs the team. It's not a player-run team like we've seen in so many situations throughout the NBA. The Nuggets have great chemistry. They all pass the ball very well, and it's watching them play is very appealing. But ironically, the two best coach teams in the NBA look like they're going to meet in the NBA Finals. I mean, unless the Miami Heat pull one of the great folderoos of all time. So, and both of those teams, the coach is the boss. Even though Jokic is a great player, he's not that type of a player where he controls the situation like LeBron does with the Lakers, and like I mentioned, the Nets and the Sixers, just to name a few.
Well, I mean, the Nuggets have a big man that the Lakers have or had. We don't know yet, but LeBron could be retiring. Is he saying this to drum up speculation? Why is he going down this route? Or is he saying it out of frustration being swept? Is that what this is?
Well, I think it's a little bit of that. Last night, from the opening tip he tried to instill his will to win that game. And he played all but 4 seconds of that do or die playoff game. He played great. I mean, he was terrific. He was 11 out of 13 in the first quarter, and he was putting his stamp on the game. But the Nuggets, there's a reason why they were the 1 seed in the West. And, they wore them down, and they outscored them by 20 points in the third quarter. Once the Nuggets, even though the lead was small in the fourth quarter, you had the feeling that the Nuggets were going to win, because every big play that in this series that had to be made, the Nuggets always made them. Whether it was Jamal Murray at the end of one game, whether it was Jokic last night, they made every big play, and they were poised. They never got rattled. And this, their first time going to the finals. It's easy to get rattled, but they didn't. And
well, you mentioned the Heat and Celtics, and by the way, the Celtics are just looking like they're in turmoil coach-wise. It's just like it's
absolutely.
Did they put their coach on notice already before even Game 4? Is that what I was reading?
I don't know if they put the coach on notice, but Joe Mazzulla he's only 34 years old. He's obviously was a top assistant. And when Udoka got let go just before the beginning of the season, he was made the coach. First it was interim, then they named him the permanent coach. Yeah, somebody's going to have to pay for this Celtic embarrassment. And you saw it with the Celtics a little bit after the All-Star break. Something was missing, Alex, with the Celtics. They looked clueless at times, and not into it. And it was almost hard to put your finger on it. Their defense,
but they were still scoring 100 points a game, it felt like. So what was missing, do you think?
Well, their defense structure was terrible. It was easy to get easy baskets against them. And, sometimes scoring points, obviously you have to score more points to win the game. But that's not the be-all and end-all if you score 120 points and give them 131. The other night was embarrassing. That was embarrassing.
That was a shocker, and a lot of people took to Twitter, to the airwaves, and should the Heat advance, I think they will. And Spoelstra has really guided can I remind you, like a 7th-seeded team to the final, which the Heat don't look like a 7th-seed team. They actually look like they're top of their game right now and top of the conference. I guess regular season had their struggles, but if they do advance, which they should, it's going to be more Jimmy Butler than against Jamal Murray. Not so much Butler versus Jokic. So who is the other big man on the Heat that people should look out for that might match up with Jokic?
Well, Bam, Ayanado is going to be the guy who's going to be up against Jokic. And, the thing is, Jimmy Butler, like against the Knicks, didn't have a big series. He missed one game with the ankle situation. And they just got performances by players that bought into the Eric Spoelstra system. And they have great chemistry. They have guys who want to be there. They have all these undrafted guys, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Max Strus. All these guys weren't even drafted, and they're all key contributors to this Miami Heat run. You don't see this in the NBA very often. You see it in hockey, but you very, very seldom see bottom seed teams go as far as the Miami Heat did. And look who they beat. They're going to beat the Celtics in all likelihood. They beat Milwaukee in 5, and they beat a Knick team that on paper seems to have a better roster than them. But Spoelstra has outcoached all these coaches by miles. He's the best coach in the league by far.
And he actually did it with LeBron back in the day. I mean, this is how long he's been here. It feels like he's been here for like 20 years already. He does it.
Well, it's pushing. I think this is his 15th. And a quick story: his first year, the first year that the big three were there, LeBron, Bosh, and Wade. LeBron wanted him gone 2 weeks into the season, and Riley said, "No way." So that LeBron did not run the roost when he was with the Miami Heat for those 4 years. And Spoelstra is an intense guy, and he's manages every possession. He's on top of every situation, and Alex. They were down 7 in the elimination game in the play-in tournament with 7 minutes to go. They were still behind with 3 minutes to go to the Bulls. And I actually thought the Bulls were going to beat them before the game started. And the Miami Heat are still standing. And as they say on the TNT postgame show, the Bulls have gone fishing.
Well, let me say this. We talked about it before. You can't play the game on paper, right? We thought, well, hey,
you can't.
Giannis is out. Bucks are gone. Maybe this is going to help the Knicks out, and it never did. It never really, they got a couple big wins here and there, but they could not match up with the Heat, which was a bit surprising considering they have Brunson giving it his all. I mean, imagine scoring 40-plus points and losing in that fight. I mean, it's just that's how good Brunson is, but it's not one guy that makes the team. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. The Knicks have a couple of things that they have to handle this summer. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I know they have no draft picks at this time. Maybe they'll trade for one. I don't know. I mean, obviously, in that last game, Barrett was 1 for 10. Randall was his typical up and down Randall. What was he, 5 for 17 in that last game? I don't know what the Knicks are going to do with Randall. Obviously, Brunson is better than anybody ever thought he was. So that's a good thing. And the Knicks have a point guard, which they haven't had for, oh my God, over 2 decades.
Lou, let me ask you this. What's on your mind? Meaning what are you coming into this conversation wanting to talk about today? Because I know you're always wanting to give Terminello's take on something in sports that maybe even I didn't catch.
Well, if you told me that all these conference finals, the 2 in the NBA and 2 in the NHL, were going to be 3-0, 4-0, 3-0, 3-0, and 2-0, I would say that surprises me. I thought Florida was going to win the series. I didn't think they would be up 3-0. I thought they were going to win the series, but I thought Dallas was going to beat Vegas, and they still might. Dallas could win the 2 home games, but if just a little tidbit here, if the odds at both conference finals in both the NBA and the NHL being sweeps, all 4 end up being sweeps, it's something like 88,000 to 1 to show you how unusual that is. But that being said, you were talking about LeBron talking about retirement. I don't think LeBron's going to retire. I mean, I think he's tired. Yes, Father Time waits for no one. He's not the LeBron that came out of high school and took the NBA by storm 20 years ago. And obviously, he played a great game last night. I still think he's one of the 3 or 4 best players in the NBA now. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Lakers do. I still think if LeBron doesn't retire, which I don't think he's going to retire, like I said, I think you got to be on the lookout for Kyrie Irving going to the Lakers. And I read something this morning that the Lakers might be interested in Trae Young. I mean, Trae Young's a nice player. He's not Kyrie Irving. And again, LeBron's going to control that player acquisition. If LeBron wants Kyrie, he's going to get Kyrie. So that's interesting. The other thing in the other sport in hockey, very, very interesting to see what's going to happen with Toronto. And if we quickly want to just talk about the teams that we had talked about a month ago that came in with all the pressure, the 5 teams.
Sure.
Boston did, because obviously they had that record-breaking season, and they were up by a goal in Game 7 with a minute to go. And Florida had an empty net, and Florida scored and then won in overtime. That's how close Florida was to being eliminated. Now they're 1 game away from the Stanley Cup final, but a disaster for Boston after having a record-breaking season. We talked about the Rangers being under pressure. Obviously, they failed. They failed to a young and inexperienced, yes, upcoming team that's going to be a contender for years to come. But obviously, management felt the same way we do as we watched it. They fired Gallant. They're looking for obviously a new coach. I think they're waiting to see what's going to go on with some of these other situations. Toronto had probably the most pressure on them because of the market that they play in. And they finally won a series. They were very, very fortunate to get by that, but they did win it. And then they absolutely collapsed against a Florida team where on paper, at least from a top-heavy end, Toronto was better. But they're out. They fired Kyle Dubas, their general manager. So the new general manager is probably going to fire Sheldon Keefe if he wants a new coach, as most general managers want their own guy in there. Is Sheldon Keefe going to be a candidate for the Rangers coaching job? Could be. I don't know. I think that they'll trade one of the big four. It's not going to be Matthews. It's not going to be Tavares because Tavares has a solid no trade clause. I think it probably will be Nylander. I mean, I would love to have Mitch Marner on my team. He's good offensively. He's good defensively. He's a terrific passer, great all-around player. It's going to be. I think they're going to trade one of the big four there. So that caught my eye. And then you look at Edmonton.
Yeah.
Edmonton, failed again. And they have Connor McDavid, they have Draisaitl, they improved in other areas, but they failed miserably. So the other team we talked about having pressure on them was Carolina. Carolina got to a conference final. They were banged up coming into the playoffs. So I'll cut them some slack. Even if they lose tomorrow night and they're out of it, I wouldn't put them in the same category as the other four. So we'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be a very interesting NBA and NHL offseason, to be sure. But obviously,
Lou, you've talked a lot about. I mean, you've been in this business for many years as an industry executive in the sports world and whatnot. When these leagues do not get a New York team into any of these finals, how frustrating is that? And how do they keep interest, for the New York fan base or for even LA now with LA gone? Oh my gosh, who's going to tune into Heat versus the Nuggets? I mean, it still doesn't have, or is it Jokic? Is there an appeal to this because of Jokic versus Butler? Is there not an appeal? I mean, how do these leagues cope with New York not making the final? That used to be a thing.
Well, again, this is my take on it. Obviously, the NBA ratings this year in the playoffs have gone up, and it really didn't matter what cities were watching, what teams were playing. The NBA has become a little bit, and believe me, a little bit like the NFL, because they're such a star-driven league that people watch. So the fact that Jimmy Butler will be in the finals, it looks like, the fact that this is Jokic's coming out party. Jokic, even though he won 2 straight MVPs, and he should have won 3, he's so much better than Embiid. I mean, there's no comparison. Embiid, a great player. Jokic is much, much better player, in my opinion. But this is like a coming out party for him. And the Nuggets play appealing basketball. The Nuggets don't play, and so do the Heat. They don't. I know they still shoot a lot of threes, but it's not just coming down and shooting threes with 20 seconds on a 24-second clock. They play pleasing to watch basketball. So I think that might help. This is not going to be a highly rated series, I don't think. One thing that's going to hurt them is that they're not starting until June 1st. And if the Heat win tonight, that means 9 or 10 days with the NBA Finals being out of everybody's mind. That doesn't help either. They're not going to move it up to Saturday night or Sunday if the Heat win tonight and both conference finals are over. I think that's a mistake. They're going to wait till Thursday night, June 1st to start. So that takes a little shine off the excitement. But if, as you were saying, well, you need to have New York teams in these finals. Then you know what, Alex? Then shrink the league. If you don't want a team from Miami or a team from Denver or an NHL final with Vegas playing the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers probably the least most popular team out of all 32 in the NHL as far as any kind of fan base. Then shrink the league. They'll never do that because of money. So when people say, well, you got to have New York, you got to have LA, then I don't buy into that. Maybe because I'm just a purist. I know the money aspect of it, but I think we're so past ratings now. I don't even know if ratings mean that much because people can watch the game on their devices. And I mean, if you
I
want
watch my games on Sling TV sometimes. Okay,
right.
So I have it on the go. And look at,
Yes.
I think there's about 40% of America cutting the cord this on cable because it's so expensive during inflation. So there was that too. But
absolutely.
But I do think for the NHL being back on ESPN was a tremendous success. Of course, I often wondered why sometimes the Stanley Cup was not broadcast on NBC4. I mean, I think there was a time where it was only on like NBC Sports. At times drove me crazy. But to be back on ESPN, ABC, it just feels right, doesn't it?
Well, they had to get back on ESPN and ABC. They should, in my opinion. I don't know what NBC Sportsnet and NBC offered them, what NBC offered them, but they should have done that deal instead of TNT deal. I mean, if you think, I don't care if the Rangers were playing the Edmonton Oilers or the Boston Bruins were playing the Chicago Blackhawks in the NHL Finals. Having the Stanley Cup playoffs this year exclusively on TNT is going to be a ratings loser. Just, in the last 6 or 7 years, the Final Four goes from over-the-air CBS to TBS back to CBS next year. In the years that's on Turner, the ratings are tremendously lower because there's still something to turning on that over-the-air TV and going on your remote and putting on ABC or Fox or CBS or NBC. So I think ESPN, they had to get back on ESPN, ABC, but they should have renewed, in my opinion, with NBC. Because NBC and NBCSN did a great job in the 15, 16 years that they covered hockey. When nobody else really wanted to take
Doc Emmerich, baby, he made those games. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he's an all-timer.
I got to give a shout out to Kenny Albert. He's been around the whole country doing these games for TNT, ESPN. I mean, he's been all over the place for this playoffs. Got to give kudos there. Hey,
and
Lou,
he has great stamina. He never gets tired. He never has an off game. He's very professional.
And by the way, Kevin Kugler is still doing football. So all these guys are very active, and I love that. I did catch up with the USFL, but Kenny's been. I love Kenny. I've met him at the Viscardi School a few times, so he's a good dude. And I always love when I hear him on a Saturday night doing the Rangers, and then Sunday afternoon on Fox doing a football game. I mean, that's the way it is.
He's unbelievable how he can perform at such a high level, and
his stat pack must be thick for every game he had, because he's probably bringing it with him from the arena to the plane to the stadium, right? So,
absolutely, no doubt about it. You were saying give me something that caught my eye. When I told you about, obviously we started talking about the hockey, but another thing that caught my eye is I really looked at the Tampa Bay Rays. They were in New York for 8.5 days. They played the Yankees for 4, had an off day, and then they played the Mets for 3. When you watch them closely, they are truly a franchise that you really want to dissect. They take all these players, especially a lot of these pitchers that couldn't get a foothold elsewhere, especially in the bullpen. These guys in the bullpen, because let's face it, it's really a bullpen game nowadays. They take guys with different arm angles that just fit those analytics. Watching them for those 7 games when they were here in New York. And I know that they were only 3-4 in those 7 games, but still watching them, you can see why they're so successful. I don't know if they're going to finish first. I mean, they started 20-3 and they're 15-11 since then. The American League East is very tough, but they have been able to beat the system almost without having to break the bank because they can't afford to break the bank. But everything that they do, if you watch them closely pitch by pitch and you watch Kevin Cash and his staff run a game, it's pretty impressive.
Gotta admit, when they beat the Mets 9-3 or 9-2 on that Tuesday, I thought that series was done for. But the Mets fought it out, and I'm leading with this because I'm going to give you a name. Back in the day, will always be number 4 to me, Robin Ventura. Seeing that black jersey number 4 award again, by Alvarez and him jumping around. I got visions of that grand single, okay? I got visions of the Grand Slam single because that's what I remember with number 4 in the black jersey. Remember that? I mean, everybody remembers that.
I was at that game getting rained on, and I still remember Todd Pratt tackling him at second base, and he never completed the trip around the bases. They should have given him the Grand Slam anyway, but Robin Ventura was a very, very good Met. He was a terrific fielder. He was a professional hitter. And I still think he has the record for the longest consecutive hit streak in the NCAA. I think 56 or 57, something like that. He had the record. I forget what the number was, but he was a terrific player in college.
He also was the only guy to take on Nolan Ryan. So there's that.
Yes, he did. And Nolan won that. He put him in a headlock and gave him noogies.
That's a fun fight to watch. Lou, real quick though, because I know that Alvarez has made an impact, but I think it's great to see Lindor coming around because he's a guy that signed this big deal, and every year counts when you pay him that much money per year, and he's coming around now.
No doubt about it. You're 100% right. He's a brilliant fielder. Even 2 years ago, when he had the horrendous first year here, his fielding is, off the charts. The guy is just when the ball is hit to shortstop, you're very confident he's going to complete the play. But offensively, I still think he strikes out too much. Yes, he's been productive with RBIs, but he's got to be a 290 hitter. He can't be batting 240. He's got to be a 290 hitter. And he's batting in front of Alonso.
Well, and the other guy on that whole spark plug to me, if you can get excited over a sacrifice fly like Jeff McNeil did, you deserve to play the game, okay? And that's why I love McNeil. I think he had something that Pete hits your homers, but I don't know. I feel like McNeil's the heart right now of this team because if you get so excited about over a sac fly, you're doing something right, No,
I agree with you. McNeil and Nimmo, I think, are keys to the heartbeat of the Mets. Obviously, I think Alonso's a little bit underrated. Obviously, he hit the big home run last week against Cleveland, down 7-3, and he hits a grand slam to tie the game. And right now he's batting around 245. He also needs to be around where he was last year, he batted 271 last year. He needs to be around that average. And we'll see. But the Mets, I still think, are one hitter short. But the kids have definitely ignited them a little bit, for sure.
And then Vientos calling him up was such a brilliant move. Mm-hmm. That was, you watch him, and as a fan, you're thinking, well, hey, this guy's performing for you in AAA. Why not bring him up? Because this team is struggling a bit. Look at what happened with the Yankees. Okay, they bring up these guys. They DFA Hicks. They bring back Greg Allen. Greg Allen plays a big role already the first couple of games he's in. This is why the minors matters, right? This is why, because if a guy like a Dom Smith isn't performing, boom, you bring up the kids and they could be a better replacement, it looks like. So it's just, I think finally both teams are managing the farm system correctly and they're bringing up the guys at the right time. I think Volpe's turned out really well for the Yankees. I was worried about him in the middle part of April, but he's really shining out in here. So
you got to remember they're kids, and we forget that sometimes. And they're gonna go through the same growing pains of going to work for a new company, just like we do. And Volpe will be fine. I mean, he's had a couple of big home runs already. I know he's only at what his average about 215, 220. That's not going to stay there, I don't believe. He's a great base runner. So I'm sure he'll be fine. I don't know what the Mets are going to do when the injured catchers come off the IL.
Right, Nito got hurt. That's why Alvarez was brought up. Right. That's kind of.
Are they going to keep Alvarez up? The other thing is, there's guys on the Mets who don't have options. So, do they send Alvarez back because he has options? We'll have to wait and see. I wouldn't send him back. I'll tell you one thing: the Mets they need another hitter. They have to beef up their DH. I'm not very happy with Vogelback. He takes too many pitches. It's sometimes, instead of a big, strong guy like he is, it looks like he's more concerned about getting on base via a walk. And he takes some pitches that he should be hacking at. So, I mean, I don't know what his future is, but that DH position, which going into last season, the first year that the National League permanently adopted the designated hitter, the Mets thought they had it right-handed with J.D. Davis, left-handed with Dom Smith, and never panned out. So,
no, that DH role has sort of been a hole of sorts because when Alonso's in the field anyway. So, it's something they got to fix up. Now, Lou, you mentioned company, and 10 years ago, we joined a company called Salem Media of New York, then Salem Communications. 10 years ago, we became part of a staff at WMCA, and 10 years later, we are officially the station of the year with the National Religious Broadcaster. I mean, station of the year, WMCA, 10 years into the making, right?
Yeah, that's a great honor for WMCA, for Salem, New York. I'm proud to have said that I worked there, and congratulations to you and to Jerry Crowley and to everybody, all my friends at Salem, New York. That's a great honor for WMCA.
Matt Sambolin on the ground here every day. Laura Schaefer, Kevin Cottrell, Kevin McCullough. Wow, what a crew, and all the ministries that we partner with. I mean, You've been to those events, the PAEs. When you see the impact the listeners feel from our station, that hits you a different way. Because when you're in your cubicle or when you're in the production studio, you're focused on getting on the air. But when you realize the impact the station is making to the actual listener, that changes your perspective a lot. It changed it for me a little bit, to be honest about, wow, it's not just putting something on the air. We're changing people's lives through the mission.
I agree. It's eye-opening, Alex, the effect that Salem, New York, WMCA has on the people in the metropolitan area when you go to those events. It really is.
Makes you feel good. On that note, I want to say thanks again for this 10-year friendship already. I can't believe it's been 10 years, but we got to keep growing, right? And keep going and grow this podcast out as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And on that note, 20 years since my time with NYRA, the Racing Association, when I met Funny Side's trainer, jockey Jose Santos, trainer Barkley Tag at Yankee Stadium around this time. And I'll be at Belmont. I want to get your thought, though. Bob Baffert's back. What is your take on that? It was sort of like a lukewarm reception because he had a horse euthanized earlier in the day. And
well, that's
and also, but at the same time, it's a comeback story to me. I don't know about you, but it feels like a comeback story for him.
You're right. It is a comeback story. And how many times have we seen greats, whether it's Baffert or other people in sports, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a trainer, whoever it might be, bounce back. Greatness, you can't overcome greatness. And
National Treasure suffered a bruised foot earlier in the year. I don't know if you know that, but I researched that and I was like,
I did not.
So he won this on a healed foot. Johnny Velasquez recovered from a fall he had at Belmont a few years ago. I don't know if you heard about that one, but he fell off his horse going into the paddock area. And his racing career was in jeopardy, but here he is. I didn't know he didn't win his first Preakness until he won his first Preakness. So Big day
So
for
is
him
he,
as
is he
well.
gonna, are they running the horse in the Belmont?
That is yet to come, but I hope to be there. Maybe one day we'll go. I know you go for the Islanders. We got to come to the racetrack again. It's a fun time.
How close is UBS to Belmont? I mean, they're almost right. They're almost like connected.
It's like you can see the paddock from center ice. You know what I mean?
It is. It's amazing how close the two sports facilities are.
I don't think you could build two buildings, a building closer to another building like that. That is the closest I've ever seen.
I would agree.
Oh man, that's not much breathing room, but it's what it is. It's a beautiful arena. I love Belmont, and I know they're trying to sort of. I guess they're trying to liven up that area. I don't know. I always thought the Belmont was a draw itself, but I guess not. I don't know.
And I guess they're going to try to renovate the grandstand. I read that a couple of weeks ago. They're
Yes.
going to try to do some renovations on the facility itself.
So they're doing a lot. And by the way, your old stomping grounds, Nassau Coliseum, might be a casino now. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Holy crap.
So Long Island is changing, modernizing, whatever you want to call it. It's definitely not your grandfather's Long Island, that's for sure.
No, that is for sure. Well, the Coliseum is one of the best buildings I've ever been in to watch a sporting event, whether it be hockey, and I did see basketball there too. It was really never a bad seat to watch a game. I mean, the bathrooms, there weren't enough bathrooms in the place. So if you had to use the restroom, you had to time it just right.
Lou Terminello with another Terminello's Take. Thanks as always, friend.
My pleasure, Alex. Thank you so much. You have a great day. Look forward to doing it again soon.
Yes, definitely. I'm Alex Garrett, and this is the Alex Garrett Sports Spotlight.